Right now, sitting in your driveway, your car is running a list of settings the factory chose for you. Not one of them was chosen to make your engine last as long as it could. I spent the first years of my career inside dealership service departments before I walked away and started telling drivers the truth, so I know exactly how these defaults get picked. They're picked to pass emissions, to keep the advertised maintenance looking cheap, to get you shopping for a new car in year 7 instead of year 15. These 9 factory settings are shortening your engine's life as you sit and watch this, and you'd never feel it, because the car runs perfectly fine right up until the day it doesn't. The manufacturer knows about every single one of them. The one at number 9 is the easiest to fix, a single decision at your next oil change. But it's number 1 they will fight hardest to keep exactly the way it is, because number 1 is the setting that sells the most engines. Number 9, the low oil warning that waits until it's almost too late. Modern cars quietly killed the habit of checking your oil. There's no warning on the dash, so there's no problem. That's how most drivers think now. Here's what the factory is counting on. That oil light is calibrated to come on only when things are already critical, when you're a full quart low or more, and the damage may already be starting. They know most people will never lift the hood between services, so they set the alarm late. Conservative for them, dangerous for you. A modern engine can burn or seep oil for months and tell you absolutely nothing until the level is near the bottom. So be honest with yourself for a second. When was the last time you actually pulled the dipstick, if your car still has one, and looked at the level and the color of that oil? If you can't remember, your engine could be running low right this minute, and you wouldn't have the faintest idea until that light finally flickers on. The fix takes 2 minutes. Once a month, engine cold, check the level yourself, and top it up long before it ever gets near a warning. Don't let the car's late alarm be the only thing standing between you and a dead engine. An engine run low on oil long enough spins a bearing or scores its cylinders, $5,480 and climbing. The check that prevents it costs you 2 minutes and nothing else. The next one is damage you can't check for at all because it's happening on a part of the engine you can't see or reach. Number 8. The fuel system that lets your valves choke on carbon. Newer engines spray fuel straight into the cylinder, direct injection, for sharper power and better mileage. The factory loves it, but that switch quietly removed something the old design did for free, rinsing the back of the intake valves clean with fuel on every single cycle. Here's what they'll never bring up in the showroom. With nothing washing them anymore, those intake valves slowly cake over with hard, baked-on carbon. By 100,000 miles, the airflow is choked down, the engine stumbles and misfires and feels gutless, and there is no factory service scheduled to fix it because putting one in the manual would mean admitting the design has a weakness. I've pulled the intake off these engines and found the valves crusted black, the openings shrunk to half their size with carbon. The owners just figured the car felt tired with age. Every one of them was stunned at what was hiding back there. The fix is to clean what the factory won't. If you've got a direct injected engine, have the intake valves walnut blasted clean somewhere around 100,000 miles, or run a quality intake cleaner on a regular basis. A good shop knows exactly what this service is the second you ask. That cleaning runs about $690, letting the carbon win until a valve stops sealing turns into a $2,140 repair. The next setting doesn't hide in one corner of the engine. It's cooking the whole thing on purpose every mile you drive. Number 7. The thermostat that runs your engine hot by design. Every engine has a target temperature held by the thermostat, and on modern cars, the factory set that target higher than it used to be, often up past 220 degrees. A hotter engine burns its fuel more completely and pollutes less, which is exactly what the regulators are asking for. Here's the trade they quietly made with your engine's life. The hotter an engine runs, the harder it is on the oil, because heat is the thing that breaks oil down faster than anything else. The factory accepted shorter oil and component life in exchange for cleaner emissions and a little more fuel economy on the test. And nobody ever told you that was the bargain you'd be living with. 2 of the same engine came through at the same mileage. One belonged to an owner who kept the cooling system fresh and changed his oil a little early. The other ran the factory schedule to the exact letter in a hot southern climate. The first engine's oil poured out clean amber. The second one came out as black sludge. Heat had cooked it long before the manual ever said it was due. You can't easily move the factory's temperature target, but you can fight the heat where it actually counts. Change your oil more often than the book demands, run a full synthetic that holds up under high temperature, and keep that cooling system flawless so it never climbs hotter than it was designed to. Oil cooked by heat and time leads to a $3,760 bottom-end repair. Synthetic and a shorter interval cost you a few dollars more each time. The next one isn't in the engine bay at all. It's a fluid the factory swears you'll never have to touch, and they are flat wrong. Number 6. The filled for life fluid in your driveline. Open the manual on a lot of trucks and SUVs and you'll find the differential or transfer case fluid marked filled for life. No interval, nothing to service, ever. It's the ultimate hands-off setting, and it's a quiet lie. Here's what life actually means to them. It means the life of the warranty, not the life of the truck. That gear oil shears down and fills with fine metal as the gears wear against each other. And once it's worn out, those gears and bearings start grinding themselves to ruin. Slowly, silently, and expensively. A plumber outside Kansas City ran a 2015 Toyota Tacoma in four-wheel drive all winter, every winter, trusting the manual that promised the transfer case fluid was filled for life. At 130,000 miles, it started to whine, then howl. The fluid that drained out looked like liquid metal. The transfer case rebuild ran him $1,920. The fix is to throw filled for life in the trash. Have your differential and transfer case fluid changed every 50 to 60,000 miles, sooner if you tow or work the four-wheel drive hard. It's a cheap service that almost nobody does. That fluid change runs about $160. The rebuild it prevents starts at $1,920 and only goes up. We're halfway down the list. The next one is a number printed right in your manual that sounds perfectly reasonable and quietly sets your engine up to misfire. Number 5, the 100,000-mile spark plug. Your manual proudly lists a spark plug interval of 100,000 miles, sometimes more. It reads like a gift, barely any maintenance to worry about. The factory loves putting that number on the window sticker because low maintenance is what sells the car. Here's what that long interval is quietly costing you. Plugs don't stay sharp for 100,000 miles. As they wear, the gap widens and the spark gets weaker until the engine starts misfiring under load, washing raw fuel down the cylinders, hammering the ignition coils, and poisoning the catalytic converter. And the longer a plug sits baking in an aluminum head, the more it can seize in place, turning a simple job into a snapped-off nightmare. I've broken a sweat and occasionally broken a plug, pulling factory spark plugs that sat for 120,000 miles, fused into the head so tightly they fight you the entire way out. So don't wait out the full factory number. Change your spark plugs around 60,000 miles while they're cheap and the job is still easy, and keep the engine sparking clean. A set of plugs at 60,000 runs about $210. Riding them all the way to failure can mean coils and converter damage north of $1,380. Everything so far you could see or touch. The next 3 settings are about what the factory pours into your engine, and the first one is hiding in your oil itself. Number 4, the ultra-thin oil chosen to pass a fuel economy test. Crack open a modern owner's manual, and the recommended oil is thinner than anything your father ever poured in a car. The factory specs these ultra-thin grades for one main reason, and it isn't your engine. It's that thinner oil creates less drag, which nudges the fuel economy number up just enough to satisfy the regulators. Here's the part that costs you. That razor-thin film is calculated to hold up under perfect lab conditions. Out in the real world, towing, idling in heat, climbing grades, or simply piling on the years, that thin oil is the first thing to give up its protective film, and plenty of these engines start drinking it by the quart. A warehouse supervisor in Reno brought me a 2017 Chevy Malibu that was burning a quart every 1,500 miles on the factory spec oil. The dealer kept telling him that consumption was completely normal. Normal was their word for it because the warranty was long gone, and a thirsty engine sells the next car. We put a quality full synthetic of the correct grade in it, and the burning slowed to a fraction of what it was. Drop a comment and tell me honestly. Do you change your own oil and pick what goes in, or do you just trust whatever the shop pours? I want to know how many of you have ever looked at the bottle. The fix is to never run the cheap minimum the factory allows. Use a full synthetic in the correct grade every time, and if your engine's older and burning oil, a quality high-mileage synthetic can slow it down. That kind of wear and consumption can lead to a $4,270 repair. The right oil costs you a few dollars more per change. Quick favor before the last few. If these are opening your eyes to what's really going on under the hood, hit that subscribe button. It's free, and it's the only thing that keeps me able to make these. Number 3, the lifetime coolant that's eating your engine from the inside. Somewhere in your manual, there's a line calling your coolant long life or even lifetime. With an interval so long, most owners read it as never, so they never touch it, and the coolant just sits in there year after year. Here's what's quietly happening in that sealed system. Coolant isn't just colored water. It's loaded with additives that stop corrosion and keep the metals in your engine from eating each other. Those additives wear out. Once they're gone, the coolant turns mildly acidic and a slow electrical current starts flowing through it, corroding your water pump, your radiator, and the heater core from the inside out. The American Automobile Association has found that cooling system failures rank among the most common reasons drivers end up stranded on the roadside, and the bulk of those failures trace back to coolant that was never replaced on schedule. The fix is to ignore the word lifetime here too. Have the coolant flushed and refreshed every 50,000 miles or so with the correct type for your engine, and that whole expensive chain of corrosion never gets started. A coolant flush runs about $130. A corroded water pump and an overheating repair start around $1,750 and can take the whole engine with them. And notice the pattern by now. Coolant, gear oil, spark plugs, every one of these lifetime or stretched out numbers points the same direction. The biggest one of all, the interval they guard most carefully, is the one waiting at number 1. Number 2, the normal service schedule that was never written for you. Open your maintenance schedule and you'll see one set of intervals printed front and center, labeled normal service. Long, relaxed, easy on the wallet. That's the one the factory wants you reading. Here's what they bury a few pages back. There's a second schedule in there called severe service with intervals that are dramatically shorter, and it covers short trips, stop-and-go traffic, extreme heat or cold, dust, and towing. In other words, it describes how almost every single person actually drives. The driver that normal was written for, the one doing long, steady highway miles in mild weather every day, barely exists. They default you to the easy schedule because it makes the car look cheap to own on the showroom floor, not because it's what your engine needs. 2 identical sedans came in a year apart. One owner followed the normal schedule to the letter, proud of how little he spent. The other read the fine print, decided he drove severe like most of us do, and serviced his car on the shorter intervals. The first engine was already sludging up and running rough at the same mileage the second one was still purring. The fix is to assume you are a severe service driver because you almost certainly are. Follow the shorter intervals, not the relaxed ones designed to sell the car. Following the wrong schedule quietly builds toward a $2,480 repair the second owner never had to think about. And that brings us to the single most important setting on this entire list, the one every other number on it has been pointing at. Number 1, the factory oil change interval. Here it is. The setting they will defend harder than any other because it quietly sells more engines than everything else on this list combined. Somewhere along the way, the factories stretched the oil change interval way out. 8,000 miles, 10,000, and on many cars, an oil life monitor that'll happily let you roll even further before it ever says a word. Here's the truth they will never put in a commercial. Oil starts breaking down long before that number. It shears, it oxidizes from the heat we talked about, and it loads up with the soot and acids of combustion. Run it that long, drive after drive, and it stops being oil and starts becoming sludge, choking the tiny passages that feed your engine and starving the very parts that keep it alive. An engine that could easily have run 300,000 miles instead dies somewhere past 150, right after the warranty, right on schedule. A rideshare driver in Las Vegas did everything the car told him to. He followed that oil life monitor faithfully, going nearly 10,000 miles between changes in brutal desert heat, proud that he was saving time and money. At 152,000 miles, the engine knocked, then let go. When we opened it up, the inside was coated in hardened black sludge, the oil passages packed solid. A replacement engine came to $6,910. The exact same car, changed every 5,000 miles, routinely runs past 300,000 without ever cracking the engine open. So here's the fix that undoes the most expensive setting on your car. Ignore the long interval and ignore the oil life monitor's optimism. Change your oil every 5,000 miles with a full synthetic, every time, no exceptions. That extra oil change costs you about $65. The engine it saves is worth more than the car. So look at the pattern one more time. The thin oil, the lifetime fluids, the stretched intervals, the late warning lights. Every factory setting on this list was tuned for the warranty and the next sale, not for the long life of your engine. Here's my challenge to you tonight. Go pull your owner's manual out of the glove box, find your real oil interval, and cut it in half starting at your next change. That one decision will outlast the car. Now, the dealership service department I came up in had a whole playbook of services they pushed that your car never actually needed. And I break down exactly which ones to refuse in the video on the screen right now. Tap it and stop paying for work that does nothing. I'll see you there.